Hola y bienvenidos al primer episodio de nuestro podcast Gringo Conoce Venezolano. Soy Joey y en este podcast vamos a hablar de tips, curiosidades y nuestras experiencias del aprendizaje de idiomas. Armando.
Exacto, mi nombre es Armando. En el siguiente video, tal como mencionó mi compañero, vamos a explicarle nuestra experiencia de cómo empezamos a aprender idiomas a través de una aplicación de intercambio. También les vamos a ofrecer diferentes anécdotas que hemos vivido a través de este último año y será muy interesante. También hemos empezado este proyecto debido a que queremos motivar a más personas a aprender idiomas tal como hicimos nosotros. Así que espero que lo disfruten. Ok,
Sí.
Joey, empecemos. Ok, el primer punto de nuestro podcast sería How It All Started.
Ujú.
Ok, ¿cómo empezó todo? Y cuéntame qué tal fue tu primera experiencia en la aplicación de Tandem y ya sabes.
Yo empecé con aprender español como la mayoría de la gente en la escuela y creo que hace como 2 años me di cuenta que ni siquiera una persona de esas clases podía tener una conversación en español. Y supongo que me di cuenta que tenía que hacer más para practicar y avanzar mi nivel de español y mi habilidad para hablar y comprender y todo. Y sí, así que decidí que tenía que estar mirando más contenido en español y como videos y cosas así. Y también, obviamente, conocí a mi compañero Armando y creo que obviamente me ha ayudado mucho. Creo que me ha ayudado lo más que todas las formas de practicar.
Muy bien. ¿Has disfrutado tu método de aprendizaje desde que empezaste?
Ese, oh, sí,
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 es-
definitivamente. Am, Obviamente en el inicio fue muy incómodo hablar en otro idioma, pero creo que si quieres aprender otro idioma, tienes que salir de la zona de confort. Así que sí.
Sí, así es.
Mhm.
Ajá.
So I'll ask you in English. What so how did you start with learning English and then how did you find Tandem, I guess?
Well, that's indeed a very good question. So, how it all started? It all began when I was a child. So I was a big Michael Jackson fan. I would listen to his songs for like 5 to 6 hours a day. And well, I started to get used to the pronunciation, some of his way to express, and a lot of slang he was singing throughout his songs. So I started to develop some kind of curiosity for the language,
Hmm.
but from that moment, I didn't decide to learn English. So years later, when I was in high school, I decided to take a private course to learn English. So I could learn a lot of things from a private teacher who would help me with my pronunciation, my
Oh
grammar
yeah.
skills. Because let's face it, all I had in high school was the same topic every year. Like
Right.
the teacher didn't even taught us what were the bases of the language. For example, the alphabet, because they started right away telling us what was the difference between the do and does, or what was the, the verb to be. So that was kind of boring,
Yeah.
and very repetitive. So I decided to get out of my comfort zone, as you said before,
Hmm.
and start on my own. That's when I met John Tandem 1 year ago, and we've been helping each other from like 1 year and a half, right?
Yeah, about a year and a
And I
half.
mean, it's been such a great experience. What
One eternity later.
Oh, we're back.
Okay.
Hello?
Hey, what happened?
I don't know. It just cut out. That was
That takes us to the next point. Something that just a few people say or talk about is about the mental struggling when learning a language. I mean,
Mhm.
what do you have to say about that? Dime qué tal te ha parecido tu proceso de aprendizaje en español, claro. Me
Mhm.
refiero que muchas personas te hablan de lo que son los altibajos al momento de aprender un idioma y cuáles son las dificultades que tú enfrentas al momento de, de hablar o incluso de escribir un mensaje, porque a veces sufrimos un bloqueo mental que es muy difícil, ¿no?
Sí, y esa es una pregunta muy importante. Creo que para mí, o la cosa más difícil del aprendizaje de español, creo que para mí ha sido disciplinarme, porque um, creo que para la mayoría de las personas que están aprendiendo un idioma, ah, creo que es muy difícil seguir con el idioma todavía cuando el progreso es muy lento y creo que por eso es muy importante tener un compañero del intercambio de idiomas para hacerte responsable para practicar y hablar y cosas así.
No, exactamente. Y cabe destacar que español es un idioma que tiene demasiados acentos. Por ejemplo,
Ujú.
está el acento mexicano, español, venezolano, chileno, argentino.
Sí,
Y supongo que para ti eso ha sido una de las partes más difíciles sí, de aprender este idioma, ¿no? Por ejemplo, para ti, ¿cuál ha sido la parte más difícil de aprender español? Desde tu punto de vista.
sí,
Things like
bueno,
that.
también es muy difícil acostumbrarte a todos los acentos um, y también hablar
Claro.
es difícil porque um, creo que ah, no sé lo que creo. Ah,
No, no, claro, tiene sentido porque muchas veces nosotros hablamos y simplemente nuestra mente se queda en blanco a tal punto que no sabes qué es
sí,
lo que quieres decir o expresar. Y es como mencioné anteriormente, puede ser un bloqueo mental,
ujú.
pero es algo que se puede arreglar a través de la práctica, ¿no?
Sí, por ejemplo, recuerdo una vez que yo estaba en un restaurante caribe y la mujer um, que trabaja ahí no, obviamente tenía un acento caribe y no creo que he escuchado un acento así antes um, y no me ayudó que la mujer ah, habló en un voz muy bajo, así que no entendí ni una palabra y sí fue muy incómodo.
Sí, sí, lo sé. Sí, puede llegar a pasar. He tenido también experiencias de ese tipo y es incómodo. Sí
Sí,
pasa.
pero es
Es muy
parte
común.
del proceso.
Sí, es parte de todo, ¿no? Así es. Y,
So,
ujú.
um, so let me ask you, so what do you think's been the hardest part of language learning and learning English in general?
Okay. Okay, I've come across with a lot of struggles throughout this process, but I think that the most challenging part is definitely speaking. I mean, when you have to speak, you don't have the necessary amount of time to think of what you want to say or what you want to express at the moment. It's because you have to think faster than ever, and that's when you
Right.
get nervous or get blank. So I just remember our first calls, right? I mean, we were blank all the time. We used to pronounce bad all the words all along. I mean, it was a complete mess. But that's part of the process. I mean, the more you practice, the better you will get.
Well, yeah.
So I think one of the best things you can do when learning a language is finding a partner in your target language. Because I mean, what's the point of learning a language if you're not going to speak and expose yourself and
Right.
immerse yourself into that matter? So our way of learning is been practicing speaking a lot, and I mean it's a process that goes with ups and downs all the time. And there's gonna be a time when you feel like you just hit a wall and you feel dismotivated.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of the pros of having a partner because you feel the responsibility not just with your partner but with yourself of just keep pushing together and pulling yourself together till the end. So in
Yeah.
order to reach the goal, you have to make a lot of input, and that comes with reading, listening, and a lot of things that will be essentials when in your learning process. So yeah. So which makes us goes to the next point. I just remember that the last year I had some struggles when I was talking with a lot of native speakers because I was just like staring at them, looking directly in the eyes, and I had no idea what else to say.
Right.
So I would struggle with even the first word. But and then I just realized that's all part of the process, and yeah, you shouldn't be afraid when you speak because
No.
if you don't make mistakes, you will never learn. That's right.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, the first few times you do, when you first start speaking, it is scary, but it's part of the process, and you get more and more comfortable as you do it. So, and I mean, I remember when we could barely send a audio message, and here we are on a
Oh yeah.
podcast. So, I mean,
I mean, it took me like 5 to 10 minutes to record the first audio, and it was terrible, by the way.
oh,
So
it took me at least 10 or 15, and all I said was, "Hola Armando, no sé si me puedes entender, pero," and then I didn't know what to say. So, you know,
yeah, sure. Oh yeah,
but it
the
was
old
all
good
part of the
times,
process. So,
the good old times. Yeah, and well, what else? Now, the next thing I wanted to ask you why we should bother of learning a language. I mean, I know that Spanish is currently the fourth most spoken language in the world,
see,
and in the future, it's going to take a great impact on society, mainly on American society. And just you've told me that in your region there are a lot of native speakers from my native language. So, what do you think about the manner? Sí, qué tal te ha parecido ese tipo de, claro, de ese choque cultural, por decirlo así,
hmm
debido a que ha habido tantas inmigraciones, tantas personas que viven en los Estados Unidos, viajan en busca de empleos, pero al mismo tiempo hay un problema en la comunicación, debido a que muchos de ellos van sin saber inglés y hay
sí,
un problema de entendimiento entre ambas culturas, ¿no? ¿Qué
sí,
opinas sobre eso?
sí. Bueno, la cultura hispana es muy importante para este país. Am, como sabes, hay más que 50 millones de hispanohablantes en los Estados Unidos y, am, y hay muchos de ellos que no pueden hablar ni una palabra de inglés. Así que obviamente para comunicar con ellos es muy importante um, de aprender su idioma. Y sí, y creo que tienen un gran impacto en nuestra cultura aquí. Um, la cultura hispana um, ha influenciado cosas como la comida, la música, um, y las políticas y cosas así. Así que es muy importante y creo que sin esa cultura este país no sería lo mismo.
No, claro. Sí, sí, así es todo, ya que es un país que tiene muchos extranjeros y bueno, ves diferentes culturas en todos lados, ¿no? En cada esquina.
Sí, pero este país es hecho de extranjeros. Sí.
I mean, it's a country built by foreigners,
Yeah, it
so
is.
it's common to see any different culture I mean, around every corner, so it's
Hmm.
pretty common there. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
That's
so
very interesting.
let me ask you, what would you say to somebody that lives in a country like Venezuela or some country in Central or South America that everyone there speaks Spanish? So why should they speak English? I guess. What would you say to them?
Well, that's very interesting though. Once I was told by one of my teachers that only 7% of the population, of the Venezuelan population, can speak English in a fluent way.
Right.
So this is mainly by professionals that live in the capital. Because if you go into the center or south of the country, you won't see so many, you know, bilingual speakers. So I think English has become a great tool at the moment of business or travel, because Venezuela used to be a country with a lot of tourism, and a lot
Right.
of people from other countries used to come to this place to stay at hotels or even walk down the streets, and
Hmm.
you were even I mean you could even got to see like 100 tourists in 1 week. I mean, we were like one of the most visited countries in South America. But then some of the issues about the country situation just came in the last 10 years,
Right.
and and well, that's an activity that hasn't been that hasn't been performed in these past years. So a lot of these professionals have left the country because of the same situation. So I think it's really important to learn a new language, because it will open you up so many opportunities, such as such as personal development. I prefer to see it that way.
Hmm. Yeah, that's great.
And yeah, I think the next point will be like, why should we bother learning a language? I mean, a lot of people will say to you that it's like meaningless and it's a completely waste of time, because
Right.
I mean you're surrounded by your own culture. You won't need it. You won't need it in the future.
Hmm.
So what would you say to that? I mean, is it really important to learn a language in communication, or
Yeah.
is there
Well,
some other way to learn other things? ¿Qué tal te parece? Sí, ¿qué tal te parece la importancia de aprender un idioma en el ámbito laboral? O sea, ¿te parece que es algo necesario para comunicarnos, o simplemente deberíamos quedarnos con nuestro idioma y buscar otros métodos para aprender?
sí, creo, obviamente aprender nuevos idiomas es muy importante para para viajar, especialmente. O si vives en un país como los Estados Unidos, donde hay millones de hablantes de ese idioma. Um, y creo que también abre la puerta a nuestras culturas y um, nuevas oportunidades, supongo.
Claro. Sí, es algo muy importante que el sistema educacional debería implementar para las futuras generaciones,
Sí.
debido a que el nivel, o sea, el dominio del nivel del inglés ha sido tan bajo aquí en Venezuela y bueno, en muchas partes de Sudamérica, y ha sido tan como un tema de segundo plano, y ya muy poca gente simplemente lo aprende. De hecho, la mayoría de las personas que aprenden un segundo idioma es por su cuenta, al menos aquí en este país.
Sí, y hay muchas personas que dicen, like, oh, aprendí inglés, por ejemplo, pero solamente pueden decir como, hello, how are you? O algo así.
Sí, eso también se debe por ese mismo método de aprendizaje. Y bueno,
Ujú.
ya sabes cómo mucha gente practica, ya que mucha gente tiene diferentes maneras de aprender, pero a veces no es la manera adecuada de adquirir un idioma. Y bueno, muchos terminan rindiéndose y bueno, estamos como estamos.
Ujú. Sí. Am,
Ya.
algo más. ¿Ya quieres hablar de tips?
Ok, Joey. Ya para finalizar en este punto, ¿qué tal te ha parecido, vamos a decir, cuáles son los tips que tú recomendarías a una persona que está aprendiendo español o algún otro idioma? O sea,
Ok,
¿qué es lo que te ha funcionado?
sí, buena pregunta. La primera cosa que recomiendo es, tienes que empezar a hablar una vez que puedes, porque si no estás hablando o intentando hablar, nunca podrás, nunca podrás hablar con fluidez, obviamente. Si solamente puedes leer y escribir, no es suficiente para tener una conversación así. Y también creo que es muy importante estar mirando contenido en tu idioma objetivo. Um, por ejemplo, videos de YouTube o películas, series, cosas así. Um, sí. Y finalmente, finalmente, la el consejo más importante, en mi opinión, es encuentra un compañero con que puedes practicar. Por ejemplo, en Tandem o otra app del idioma, del intercambio de idiomas. Um, sí. And what about you? What tips do you have for somebody that's learning a language?
Okay. Well, I want to start from the point of a lot of people have the wrong idea that they will acquire a whole language just by listening to it or just reading some random news or even
Right.
using Duolingo. I mean, I've heard a lot of my partners. I mean,
Yeah,
they believe.
you just play a game 10 minutes a day, and then in a couple months you'll be fluent, right?
No, I mean it's not like that. I mean, first of all, I think I haven't explained in this part that I decided to become a language student. So my career in college is modern languages. So I decided to take this career because for me, languages are not just any other random hobby as like playing guitar or playing chess or any other random game.
It's
But
more
this
of a
is just
passion,
like
right?
yeah, this is a passion that I developed throughout language learning, this learning process. And as you may have noticed, one of my teachers just told me in my last class that one of the best ways to acquire a language is to find a partner. I mean, a partner that
Oh,
speaks your
definitely.
target, because if you don't engage with native speakers, your process will be affected and in a negative way. So it will be slower. You will get blank all the time when speaking. So I think it's really important to find a partner that supports you, and you can help him back in a way that you can help each other throughout the process. So the second one of my tips would be the reading.
Oh
So
yeah.
there's reading has helped a lot for me in this process, and I dare say that at least 50% of my vocabulary comes from the books or even comics. So I'm conscious that I mean I'm aware that a lot of people acquire languages in a different way. Maybe it works for you like reading a book, some
Right.
comics, novels, or articles online that you can find from the internet.
Not
Another
everyone
thing
learns
is
the
shadow.
same. Right.
Yeah, and the third one it's listening. That involves things such as like listening to movies or TV shows, or of course shadowing. That's something I just discovered like the last week, but it's been really helpful because let's give you an example. I'm watching a native speaker talking in my target language, and now I'm just like trying to imitate what he's saying by just um, yeah, copying his words. And in that way, I just can get a new slang, new expressions, and a lot of new vocabulary I didn't even know before. So it's a great tool uh, when when you're in a conversational situation, because your speaking skills will improve faster than you ever
Right.
thought. So you should give it a thought if you ever consider of a new method of learning a language.
Yeah, it's
So
great.
yeah, sure.
So,
So Joey, how has it been this experience of making this podcast? Because I mean, we've been pretty nervous throughout this video,
yeah,
and I want to motivate people to not to be afraid when doing this kind of thing because it's completely normal making mistakes, as you said.
yeah.
So, what do you think it's? I mean, what's been the most remarkable part of this video?
I mean, I don't know. We've been talking about doing this podcast for like months and months, and finally, well, obviously last week we tried to record and it didn't go so well. So we we practiced throughout the week, and here we are. So yeah, we're not trying to make it perfect. It's gonna have lots of errors and mistakes in it, and that's just part of the progress. And we know that we're not like the goal of this isn't to wait until we're perfect speakers and then make a podcast, right? It was just to kind of get out of our comfort zone because I think the speaking, the our conversations, just our calls were. I mean, they're kind of the same conversation every time. I feel like so we kind of wanted something different that could help maybe encourage some other people. So
Yeah, I mean it's kind of funny. I just look back at time, and I just remember all the conversations. I mean, we started off from having smaller conversations and and having basic topics, and then we just moved on to having more complex things and like conversational level. And
right,
I mean, since I wasn't capable of speaking when like 1 year ago, and now here we are just recording our first video for the podcast,
I
and
know.
I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, me too.
Another thing, another thing that everyone should take into account is to set specific goals. I mean, realistic goals. I mean, of course, you won't become fluent in within a month or
Right.
in a matter of 3 months. I mean, it's a process that takes a lot of time, effort, and input.
Oh
So,
yeah.
in order to become a fluent speaker, if you want to to get better every day, you have to practice at any time. So just keep it in mind.
Yeah, that's good. So
Sí, ha sido muy interesante, ¿no?
sí, creo que
Especialmente porque habíamos
tuvimos
tenido esto planeado por mucho tiempo y bueno, ya finalmente ya se realizó el video, finalmente.
sí, tuvimos una buena conversación.
Exacto. Sí,
Sí,
bueno, ¿hay algo más que quieran agregar antes de finalizar el video?
no, no realmente. Creo que cubrimos todo lo que queremos hablar.
Sí, exactamente. Ok, para el siguiente video, que aún no tenemos ninguna fecha certera de cuándo lo vayamos a publicar, queremos que inviten a todos los contactos que ustedes puedan y para, por supuesto, tener más alcance, ya que estamos iniciando con con este canal. Y bueno, sería de gran ayuda.
Gracias por mirar este episodio nuestro primero. Y si te gustó el video, por favor suscríbete y da pulgar arriba para más.
If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and leave a comment below. We also left a link in the description below if you want to join on our Discord server. So it will help us to grow as content creators, and
Right.
we will appreciate a lot your help. So thanks for listening, and have a nice day.